Really happy with
that. We don't play for about a month for 3 o'clock on a Saturday, Bridge.
No, but I'm saying it's the TV games. Stuff on the telly.
At 4 o'clock Sunday, then we're away to Livingston. It's on the telly, then we'll get the cup final.
Yeah. I know, but I'm not meaning ever. The games have been selected just recently for the rest of the end of the season, to all intents and purposes. And Rangers, a big section of our Rangers are just at home, and it's 3 p.m. and I'm very happy.
Well, most of our home games are like that, and they just say because it's the away games you usually show on the TV, apart from the obvious.
Yeah, but if Rangers were playing Hearts, for instance, so I didn't.
Yeah, just your name's no Juicy. That's the first one of the night, 3 and you're out. Right, carry on, Juicy.
I find it difficult to work out how on earth they come to the decisions with regards to these start times, Ox. But 4 p.m. Sunday on a dodgy channel, standard fare, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to hear for your gaffer, if that's all right with you two chaps.
Go for it.
And we'll get an idea of who's in and who's out before we discuss the team. Give some clues, just here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bridge, get some clues off a gaffer and we'll see what we think the team's going to be. And then we'll get the phone lines opened, all right?
Excellent, pal.
Right, let's see if our gaffer, Michael Beale.
Michael, how's the squad looking for this one?
Yeah, really good. Kamaru's back in training. Obviously, Yanis has had an extra week as well, so delighted with that. So we've got a strong squad. We'll pick a strong team as well. Won't be too many changes.
Positive news on Kamara as well, because that's a sort of quicker return than you would have hoped for originally.
Yeah. He's obviously the first thing was just being pain-free, and then a little bit of unopposed training. The last few days he's gone opposed and he's looking sharp, Kem. Let's hope that this is the start of him getting a clean bill of health for a longer period of time.
Is John Suter any closer to a return to the matchday squad?
Not just yet, no. He's still training in isolation, similar to Tom. Their situation's just dragging out a little bit, so no specific update on that. They're doing individual work at the moment.
You say you won't make too many changes. Does that just show the importance of the Scottish Cup to yourself and the club?
Yeah, it's massively important. I think we want to pay respect to how important it is to us as a club and the competition as well. It's a competition obviously we won after a number of years in the summer, and it's obviously one of the trophies that we feel we can win again this year.
John Lundstrom okay?
John won't be available this weekend. We're hoping to be back for the Livingston game, so we had some good news on that one. It was a sore one. He went to block a shot and rolled his ankle. At the time, you're thinking we won't take any risk with it because obviously we had a particularly strong bench with Malik and Glenn Kamara on it. So hopefully he'll be back in time for Livingston next week. He'll definitely be fit for the cup final at the end of the month.
I think before you said you hoped that John Suter would be back for the St Johnstone game. Has he had a setback or something?
No, not so much. It was almost like he needs a bit more in the tank, I think, in terms of his general fitness before we was to throw him out there in the game. It's all right training with us and doing little bits and stuff like that. And then obviously we just got to make sure that people react well to that. They're almost going for a pre-season again, so there'll be ups and downs in that, but nothing to concern me.
Do you have a time frame on the likes of John and Tom Lawrence and Ridvan Yilmaz at all?
Ridvan will be probably another 3 weeks, which will be good to get him back. So obviously I haven't seen or worked with Ridvan at all, and he's a player that I've got high hopes for. So hopefully he'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks. Tom and John, I don't want to put a time frame on it.
Cup action this weekend. How big's the determination in the squad to retain the trophy after finally getting their hands on it last year?
Yeah, huge. Obviously we're in one cup final and by the end of the season we'd like to think we can get to another one. I think the competition is really important for us, really important. We're 4 wins away from a trophy. That's how we see it. We need to make sure we perform to our best on Sunday to make sure we're one less game towards one.
Is that as much about creating a mentality of winners and consistent winners as well, going on and retaining this trophy?
I think so. I think, listen, you never know how many years you've got left, in the game, and regardless of where you are in your career, we're a club that thinks we can win, thinks we can get to cup finals, and we've obviously got one to look forward to, and we want to add to that with another one, and ultimately when you get there you want to be picking up the trophy as well. So I think when you're at this club, it's relentless. I think since I've come back, we've played 12 games and won 11. We have to just keep winning.
In terms of Partick Thistle, do you expect anything different given it's a team from a lower league?
I know Corley really well. He's a guy that I've known when I first came up to Glasgow. He's become a bit of a friend in that time as well. He sent me a lovely letter when I got my job at QPR, which was lovely of him to do, a nice gesture that managers do for each other. I thought he showed a touch of class. He's someone that we've loaned players to before and loaned players to this year. He's someone that I know outside of football, and I wish him well. I look at his squad and they've got a lot of SPL experience in the team. So I think it'll be an interesting game. They're bringing 2,500 fans as well, which shows the support they've got. We just need to keep pushing our standards and not dropping from it in terms of our attitude and energy. I'm still looking for a greater level of performance, albeit I think at times we've played very well. I still want to push for more.
Do you think it'll add to that sort of derby atmosphere with the big away crowd as well?
I think it's nice, yeah. I do think it's nice, and I think we've already seen a big upset in this cup already in the previous round, and looking at the competition at the moment, when there is a couple of upsets, then it opens up the hopes and the dreams for everybody. So I think it's an interesting tie. We just need to make sure that we're at our best and we get through.
Michael, can I just ask your thoughts on the European Super League has reared its head again? Do you think, given you've got much experience at many big clubs, including this one, do you think in the future this will continue to come up again and again about reforming football in Europe?
I haven't really seen too much about this new proposal. Obviously it's only come out in the last 24 hours and I'm not up to speed on it to comment on it, but there's obviously something in the water, because it's not going away, is it? If it's not one format, it's another. So the Champions League's being reformatted again after next season. So it seems there's a big urge for the teams outside of England to create something, and I don't know what our stance is, so I wouldn't want to comment further on that.
Just on Yilmaz, is he okay? And obviously there's a lot going on in Turkey just now. Is there a duty of care? It might not be in where he's from, but do you just have to keep an eye on him and make sure everything's okay? Yeah,
of course. Like, you send the condolences, and we've all seen the really sad news and the bits on TV as well. It's tragic, isn't it? And had a little conversation with Ridvan on it, not a big one. He's out training and he's close to a return, and I think that's where he's focused on.
Just on Ridvan, Michael, he's quite a different player to Borna in terms of what he can offer the team. Do you think he can give Rangers a different tactical dimension at left back, something completely different out there?
Yeah, look, I think we have an outstanding one in Borna, and we have an outstanding young one in Ridvan as well, who's brought with the eyes on the future, of course, and lots of competition. We lost a fantastic one in Calvin Bassey as well in the summer. So I think just before he got injured, he started to excite the fans with what he could bring. You're right, he's a different type of attacking fullback. He's someone that arrives and runs past a wide player, where Born as someone who's got that fantastic crossing. It's a lovely blend to have, and then you'd pick and choose which one you would use and when.
It's one of the biggest challenges, Michael, in the Cup, that the teams that you come up against sometimes aren't the ones that you play every week, so that familiarity isn't really there.
Yeah, it's quite nice actually. Obviously you play a lot of the teams in the Division 3, definitely 3, but some 4, and if you draw them in the Cup as well, it becomes a bit of a groundhog, because obviously you know so much about each other, and it can sort of make for at times a stale game or a very stuffy game. It's nice to play a team that's not in our league, but also we know in that they've got nothing to lose coming to Ibrox this weekend. I'm sure that's what Corley will be telling his team. We've got everything to gain as well. It's making sure that we play justice to the importance it has for us at Rangers.
You hinted that you'd like to have both Cholak and Morelos up front. Is this an opportunity to test out that theory?
It's definitely an opportunity for Cholak to play. I think he's waited frustratingly on the sidelines to get an opportunity, because Alfredo's been in good form, and in all fairness to Antonio, he's not been 100% fit in the time I've been here. But he's had a really good 10 days now of solid training. He looks strong, so early team news will be Cholak will play. Whether he plays Morelos or not, we'll decide nearer the time.
Michael, you're going to have a lot of years ahead of you in management. I imagine managers always learning, constantly learning. What would you say in this small section of time over the last couple of months since you took the job has been one of your kind of key learnings as a young manager?
I think obviously the exposure that it gives you and the demands on your time is important. So I think you have to have your ideas for football very much aligned with your staff and the club, because you don't want to be fighting that, because there's a lot of things that come to you as a manager you don't see, a lot of personal things. We spoke obviously there about Ridvan, and we've had players who've had setbacks with injuries long term. We've had others that are out of contract. So you have to manage all of that, and you need a really good staff around you. You need to be aligned as a club, which we are. And in terms of the football side, I thought I was a good fit for this club, because obviously I'd worked here before and I knew a lot of the people. So I think the job has not surprised me in any way. The 3 game weeks when I have to do 3 press conferences and 3 post-match press conferences and then 3 interviews and stuff like that becomes a little bit tired, because you know, that you answer a lot of the same questions. But outside of that, I'm loving the job. It's nice to be living back in Scotland. I'm enjoying working in the league. I think, as I said previously, there's a lot of good managers and good players in the league, and I'm enjoying being part of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the word relentless a few minutes ago. 12 games so far, the 13th against Partick Thistle, 11 wins, 1 draw, and you just highlighted the busyness of it. How do you actually switch off and just take a breather from your family and things as well? I imagine, do you find it hard to kind of set aside that time, and how do you switch off?
I live in a really nice part of the country. I'm a bit like a hide and seek champion. You wouldn't be able to find me outside of my job. I like that because it enables me to go to the countryside and spend time with my family as well, you know, and it's great having young children. They tend to take your mind away from things a little bit. But the rest of it, I love being here. I am a football obsessive. I like being in the club. It is what drives me. I don't see what I do as work. And I think that's, if you can do that in life, then you're very lucky. And I think anyone that's a football player or a football manager needs to remind himself of that when we're moaning about travelling and staying in nice hotels and playing in football matches that are fantastic events, that a lot of people would love to be in our position. That's never lost on me. You know, I'm living really what I wanted to live as a young boy, so I'm a very fortunate person.
Steven Gerrard's been linked with a few jobs about getting back into football management. Have you spoken to him recently, and do you think he's ready to do that?
I haven't spoken to him recently, and he looks like he's enjoying some time with the family, which I think, when you consider the amount of sacrifice he's had over the years, is probably the right thing to do. I think Steven's going to go on to be a real big success as a manager. Having spent time with him, I think there's been some unfair things thrown at him. I worked underneath him, not alongside him. He was the boss, then Gary, then myself, and that worked really well for 4 years in 2 clubs, and I expect Steven and his staff to go on and have a successful future. You know, there's a lot of speculation in the air, but you know, no one will be more happier than me when Steven gets back in.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
Well, Bridge, as always, a lot there said by our esteemed manager. He's always very, very honest in his comments.
Yeah, he's a breath of fresh air listening to him, isn't he? And there's no pretensions with him. I don't think there's any pretensions with him anyway. And it's just straight stuff, you know. For me, great to listen to, wonderful. And his statement at the end there, his wee statement at the end there about Steven Gerrard, wonderful, really good. I hope he gets back in. It won't be long. But and he's enjoying his rest period, as they say. But we'll see what happens with Steven Gerrard. But our manager, really good, and it must be brilliant to be a player with him behind you. It must be.
Oh yeah, you know, his positivity and his honesty is what shines through. And I always feel that any time the press ask him certain questions, that there's some kind of slant or angle that they're looking for, which is of course correct because they're the press. But asking him questions about Stevie, you almost feel like, you know, they're going to ask him something like, "Oh, do you want to see him at Rangers as your sidekick?" or something daft like that, which is just utterly ridiculous. And he's obviously got a lot of respect for the man. They work very well together. And I know we didn't perhaps win as much as we wanted under Stevie, but there's a lot of respect still there. And there's I don't think any Rangers fan would want to say that we don't wish the best for Stevie, but they work very well together, Bridge. And there's a lot that you can see that our manager now learnt from Stephen in terms of the way he conducts himself, particularly in the interview setup, with the way he is with the press. And you could see that it was something that Gio, again, it was not his first language, but he wasn't that comfortable with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Gio struggled a wee bit sometimes. I think it's because he was coming away with it, and people just they kind of switch off a wee bit, and there's a bit of disbelief. And when he comes away with it, it's just, we know it happens, and I accept it. But that's just the way the man is. That's the way he communicates when he doesn't speak his own language. But seriously, the Beale man, and what you said there about them asking him that question about Stevie Gerrard is absolutely right. There's always something. There seems to be, to me, always something behind their questioning, whatever question they want to answer. Excuse me. I don't think any of them have got any respect at all for any Rangers manager. None at all. That's my honest opinion. I've been there a long time watching Rangers and a long time reading their papers and listening to their shows for many a year there, and it's gradually got worse and worse and worse, and it's really bad. None of them, absolutely none of them, get any respect for Rangers at all, and then Rangers do none, nothing but hatred.
But as Rangers fans, I think we speak for everyone listening that they don't like us and we don't care. Because
it's not just. I mean, that's quite a light-hearted thing. But I'm quite serious about it, and I'm not saying that it's not quite good. Seriously, they at the press level really don't like us. They really don't, and they hate us. And in some instances, absolutely detest us and everything we stand for. And I don't like them, and I don't care what they say. That's in that sense, yes.
And I think, moving forward, relationships with the press, they're always going to be there. But we just got to control our own destiny and take it from there. So, in terms of other things that came out of that press conference to note, Yilmaz, he said he's around 3 weeks away. Hopefully, when we get to the end of that 3 weeks, he doesn't give us more bad news that he's going to be out for another month or something like that. It would be great if he can actually start seeing him in action, because he did comment that he's not seen him on the field of play in a training capacity yet. So he's basically a brand new player to him. And then he also said that Suter and Lawrence have unknown return dates, which is actually quite concerning, because I think a lot of us had hoped, Bridge, that Lawrence in particular, we were putting in so much hope that he was going to be back in and around after the World Cup, but ultimately it was an unknown return date, even all the way back then.
From a Lawrence perspective, it's a huge disappointment. As far as Suter's concerned, well, we haven't actually seen him, to be honest, and I'm not surprised. I am not surprised at all that he's there and he's injured. Nothing at all surprising me about him. I don't think by the sound of it, he needs to go a long way, John Suter, before he can tell to tell the Rangers fans that he is a Rangers player and he's here for the good and good for the team. I just haven't seen it, and I don't think anybody's seen it. A lot of sympathy for him because he's a footballer, he's a Rangers man, and he's getting injured. But I'm sorry, I don't think he's. Some guys I speak to saying he'll never play for us. Really, you're lucky if you're going to get 20 games out of him for his whole contract. That's what they say.
I think as the manager starts to look at other players, as the manager starts to look at other players, it'd be interesting to see whether he has a future. What do you think, Oxjar?
I'll be interested to see what pans out with Vilnas. I mean, what kind of hamstring you get? It must be one of the worst ever. It keeps you for that long, Juicy.
Well, it's one of the world's longest hamstring injuries, but Ox, it's not just that, is it? It's not just that one individual player. This has been an issue now with our team for this entire season. If one player or another, they get injured, the manager, whichever one of the managers it was at the time, states that, they should be out for a few weeks. And then that turns into months and months and months. And we've had a variety of injuries, muscle-related injuries, sprains, tears, and whatever it is, they seem to be out for far longer than they originally had either hoped or had perhaps planned for in terms of the rehab. And of course, with Lawrence and Suter, they've had relapses in that. It sounds like Lawrence was doing okay, had that relapse.
Different injuries. Both of them have different injuries for where it started for. Obviously, exactly. Lawrence was on the way back, and it happened in training. John Suter, they got to the bottom of it, and he's had an op, and he's not been back since. But interesting. We'll see where it takes us with these injuries. I mean, they're not in my squad this now. You can't worry about the people that's there. Hopefully we see Vilmas in a few weeks, and then we take it from there, But I think Lawrence and maybe Suter, Bridgeman, you're maybe talking about next season, if I'm being honest, as time moves on.
Oh, yeah. In my honest opinion, I doubt very much if you're going to see him at all this season. Doubt it very, very much. There's only a few games really left, It's only a few months to go until the end of the season, truth be told. And there's a lot of football to be played, cup games and things like that. And I don't think we're going to see him. If I was the manager right now, it wouldn't have been my plans. Maybe to get him in and give him a couple of minutes in a game, a couple of cameo roles before the end of the season, just for the benefit of him. But no, it's not as serious. I'm seriously listening to that. It was fun. I just don't think so. I think it's going to be a long, long time before we see John Suter, if at all.
Aye, well, we'll see what it takes us. I think we will see him, mate. I think you might see him before the end of the season, but as far as playing regular, I think for both of the players, it's looking like next season, just if I'm being honest.
I agree. If you see them this season, Oxter, it might be some end of season league campaign cameo appearances, perhaps, if they are, that close to being able to get back on the field of play. I honestly believe that with regards to Suter, the manager may feel in the summer that he's perhaps just got better defensive options at his disposal, and your centre backs, two of the most crucial positions on the park. You need that consistency, which we're getting at the moment with Connor and Ben, but you're not getting any kind of consistency from a centre back whose injury record is horrendous, and it pains me to say that.
But remember who got him injured, mate, this time. Remember who got his injuries. Don't make things that's not true. Who caused his injury this time? It wasn't John Suter.
Yeah. But regardless of how it's happened, Ox, or which club he was with when he got the injuries, he's a Rangers player.
It was with our club, mate, and he got wrong diagnosis, so it wasn't great. We've had it sorted, and hopefully he can move on and put everything behind him. He just needs a bit of luck, the boy.
Yep, and something, Ox, regardless of whether his future is with Rangers or another club, I wish the very best for him. And if he does come back strong and play for us and he's consistent again, that would be fantastic. But we were speaking before we came on air about sentiment and perhaps sometimes keeping some players for too long or not selling them on and cashing in maybe when we should do. It works the other way with players that aren't doing so well. And if we don't feel that these guys are working for us, in terms of what we want out of them, and or they're not able to do what we're asking, even if they've been on the shelf for a little while and they're trying to come back, and we need to look at whether or not we can cut our losses. And that's not me being a bad person and suggesting that. It's just we've got to look for players who are available to play for this club. I'm not saying he doesn't want to, Ox, but is he going to be the level that he needs to be to play for Rangers if he can come back anywhere close to 100%? And that doesn't mean that I don't want the best, because I do.
He's finished with the negatives, yeah?
Sorry.
No, can I just say, I agree with Oxtear that obviously the problem was not his making. And we have to get it, the Rangers have to get it resolved with the guy and get him back to fitness. And we can only then make a judgment.
Then we'll judge him. Yeah. He's still got a bit over the club, and I just don't think we'll see him this year. Right, Redvan, it's good that he's starting to push, and it's also good that Lawrence and John Suter are training. Just know they'll be getting there, whereas they've only done any training before. So they're coming back. Hadji will be in the squad tomorrow. Kovac's in the squad for Sunday. So really, considering where we were a few weeks ago, Bridgeville were in a far better place, yeah?
Oh, yes, indeed. Sadly, the roof folk came on and got injured with calf again. But because he would be I think our manager really likes him, and I think he would play him. He would use him as a third striker for sure. But I don't know if he's going to be fit enough. I don't even know if he is fit. Is he out for the rest of the season or something? Is it bad news for him? Does anybody know?
Roof is on his way back.
No, he's on his way back. He's not out for a long time.
No. He's close. Manager said he's pretty much.
Yeah, I think the manager likes him, Juicy, and he's a type of.
So, no, he might be in and around the squad for next week or so.
Yeah, that's good. That's brilliant. That's a relief.
However, Ox,
yeah, carry on, Casey.
How many games can we get out of Kamar when he is fit? Because we know, similar to Jack, he's always been that player that you have to manage because of the fragility. But what we do know with Roof is that when he's fit, the guy is the most clinical striker we have at this club. We've spoken about it. Other panelists have spoken about it. The callers phoning in have spoken about it. No one knocks his goal scoring prowess for our club. He's beyond superb. He's very, very good. It's just that fragility that comes with him in terms of being able to get a sustained run from him.
Yep, I agree with that. He's very dangerous in the 6-yard box.
He's a good finisher, yeah. But we get to this summer, I think he's got a year left in his contract. Be interesting to see where that goes, Bridgman.
Yes, indeed. I think this manager is going to be, when it comes to the summertime, if he can, he's going to be quite ruthless, to be honest. That's what I think. Oh, is that Oxford joined us? No, he's no. He is. Is that you back in, Oxford?
Been here for ages, Bridge. I've been talking to you.
You were on the phone there. Were you not on the phone?
Bridge, man, just keep talking. Yeah.
Okay. It's just to say that I don't know. I don't know whether our manager has got that ruthless enough streak to be able to sort of dump someone that's still got a 12 months on his contract. Because as Roof is at the moment, has been for a wee while, you might not get your money back on him anywhere near it. So it might be you might just have to release him. And I don't know whether he would do that. But it's going to be great to see. We're seeing light at the end of the tunnel with some of our players. We're starting to play a wee bit of football. If we can keep that up, we'll be real good challengers. If we can keep it going, that's all. And Roof might fit in there.
Okay, I'll put the two on the spot. You've heard the manager's press conference. You heard who's fit, who's not fit. Do you see what's your lineup for tomorrow? Sunday.
Oh, that's a good question, my friend. I probably wouldn't make any crazy changes on the back row. I'd of course want to see McGregor in goal. Some fans might want to see McCrory, but I really don't want to change that. I think the only
He's injured, mate. He's injured. He's
exactly
not available.
Exactly. So McGregor for me, the guy's our best keeper. I don't think there'd be anything I'd particularly change on the back four. The manager, Ox, might go with King, potentially. He might start and rest one of them. He might rest Ben Davis. But I personally wouldn't want to change it. I think we want to keep the momentum going with the first team. With Lundstrom being out, I would go with Tillman, and I would love to see the new guy starting in the middle, Mr. Raskin. I'd be quite happy to see that. And possibly Cantwell in the middle as well. And then take your pick up front. He might start Cholak from what he said. And then, of course, Kent and Fashion. So I think he could start Cholak, and I'll go with that as well.
That's a lot you said there. Are you saying you're going to have Cholak and Alfredo on?
No,
you didn't mention Alfredo.
I think he'll start Cholak. I think Alfredo could come in later.
Right. Okay. That's why.
Give me your midfield again, there, Juicy. Give me your front six.
I would go with Raskin, Cantwell, Tillman, which actually sounds very attacking. But remember, Raskin is the holding player.
I don't know if he has that type, but I think a lot of people would like to see that. But I think the 2 out of 3 will play. They'll all play at some point, I think.
I don't think we need to see 2 holding, Ox. We don't want to see 2 holding at home to Partick.
Well, you say that, mate. I agree with you, but when I watched it last week, when we didn't have that shape, we went to pieces when we made all the attacking players on.
An interesting point.
Richmond, you can come back in.
There's a good statement you said there. I would like to see the 3 together, the same as Juicy said, but my head keeps going back to this. We need somebody that will control that wee sort of rubbing of the land after, in front of the back 4. And I think you would need to have Ryan Kent in there, to be honest, providing he's no injured. That's where I would play him in there. And then you could take a choice of the 3 that you mentioned. 2 out of 3, put them in there. And the forward line, I'm not 100% sure what forward line you were going with, Juicy, to be honest. But I would have Ryan Kent. And if you're no one going to with Cholak in, and then you would do Cantwell, yeah? Cantwell out on the right, is that what you were saying, or out on the left, whatever?
I'd have had Fashion and Kent up front with Cholak.
Right, okay.
I don't think Ryan Kent will start on Sunday. I think you might find that Scott Wright might come into the team.
That's not a bad shout as well, you know.
Oh my goodness.
But, Scott Wright gives you speed, doesn't he? He has got pace. And he can run. He runs dead straight at them. So the only thing is if he has to control the ball and not lose it. That's one of the big problems he's got. And particularly fall over it, that kind of stuff. So he needs to do that. But
I think
go on, pal.
if we'd had a midweek game, we may have perhaps been seeing multiple changes to what we'd be expecting. But perhaps, Ox, because we didn't have that midweek game, there might be fewer changes than maybe you'd perhaps think. The players have been able to have a nice week of training and they've had appropriate rest as well. You won't perhaps be needing to change it, but he also suggested that you don't want to underestimate the opposition, which is, of course, the standard thing to say. But as long as everyone gets the opportunity in this match, coming on as a substitute if they haven't started. I think we'll be happy that we'll get to see a lot of players get good game time.
I think most people will be looking forward to seeing the two new signings start. I think they will start, and I think they'll start with another. When I say another, I think it'll be Kamara or Jack Bridgman.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. My thought was that Jack is, to me, is the most defensive of the midfielders that we've got. I like Kamara. Kamara can come up close and move up towards the forward line and play the link man there as well. But he can come on at any time. Whereas Jack, you need that wee bit of solidity in the front of the defence. However, we're talking about Partick Thistle, and they're coming to Ibrox. So many times we've said this, we shouldn't need to have a lot of defensive players on our team. But I still think we need it. I don't want him sitting beside Golson. I want him just in front, pick the ball up whenever possible.
Just a message for one of our listeners in Western Australia. Your boys are going to take one hell of a beating. Right.
One of our listeners?
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. All right, so I think we'll go with the same back four. I think it goes with that. I don't think there's any. Maybe Devine could get a start. You never know, but I don't think so. Goalkeeper, agree with you. Juicy McGregor. Midfield, interesting. Think Cholak starts 60 minutes. You never know. He could start with Hadji. If it was me, I would have Sakala out there. But Sakala could be a big play for us in these games coming up, yeah. So, but you're hoping we can. Doesn't matter who we play, we get through. But Sakala, Cholak. And if I was picking the team to win it, I would start Kenton, but I think he might go with right, Juicy.
That could be correct. I still would be looking at bringing on Wright later once we've got a couple of goals up. Not to be disrespectful, but we know that we're capable of doing that. It's not that I dislike Wright. I just don't think he's proved to be, crazy with consistency. He's definitely shown us moments.
You see, you're not thinking about a big picture. It's a Scottish Cup. They take a picture before every game, and you need them in a photograph. You've got to think of a big picture.
I know you're very fond of him.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. He's always well turned out. He's always well turned out. I mean, there's nothing for me personally, But he's always well turned out for a journey.
Yeah, look, it's a Scottish Cup, and we're at Ibrox, and Rangers should, and it's a big should, Rangers should be able to pick any 11 players they've got from their, whatever it is, 22-man squad. Any 11 players should be able to take care of Partick Thistle, and that's a God's honest truth. But it was sometimes with our teams, we had players actually play, it doesn't work out that way, and we end up kind of struggling a wee bit. Sort of feeling. Sorry?
I think the last time, I'm trying to think, I might be wrong, I'll check it out, but I think the last time we played them in the Cup with two games, we drew at Ibrox.
It's all there for us.
I might be wrong, but that was 2007, 2008 season, but I might be wrong. Right, okay. This is a phone-in show, we need you to get involved. Let's hear from you.
Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
Aye, so it'll be interesting. Interesting what you do with do you stick a flush, you keep the consistency going, do you try and bring players in, do you, your Hadjis and the Cholaks, do you start with them, do you bring them on? Big decisions, do you see it?
Yes, but also better position to be in. As I said earlier, with regards to players coming back, we haven't got a bench just full of B team players now, and he's got those options which he didn't have in the first part, and Gio never had this season in terms of being able to look at good quality players who've who aren't just sitting at a youth level waiting for their opportunity. You know, players that have been in and around the first team for a while. And don't forget Hadji as well. You know, will Hadji get some game time? You know, of course, it was very unfortunate that he was injured in a Scottish Cup tie against a so-called lesser team at Ibrox. It was just unfortunate. He could have been injured in any game, Ox. But it just so happens to have been a match where you could have said afterwards in hindsight, did he need to be playing in it? But you can't think like that. A player can get injured at any time, anywhere. But don't rule him out in getting some game time. He probably won't start, of course. But you know, would you be looking at wanting to give him another 20 minutes to half an hour?
I am. This is where maybe the 5 substitutes works for you at times, Bridge.
Yeah, well, we've also commented. I like the 5 substitutes, but what my problem is, there are times when we don't actually use them properly. But a cup game is an ideal point to be doing these things, and the manager should be doing whatever he needs to do and planning his game towards using the 5 substitutes. We're playing Partick Thistle, and I don't mean any disrespect to Partick Thistle, but we're playing Partick Thistle at Ibrox.
How can you plan, mate, when someone like the Lundstrom, you've got to react as a manager?
Oh yes, but I'm saying that in his mind, we're playing Partick Thistle. I'm going to use up my full quota of substitutions. Don't sit with only use 2.
Well, last week, within, I don't know what it was, about 5 minutes or something, Lundstrom done his ankle.
Plans get thrown out the window, don't they?
Exactly.
Plan. But he has to have a plan B. You know, if there's an injury, then we have to use up a substitute, and that throws everything back a wee bit. But there's, you know, I would imagine they're talking about bringing 3 subs on in the 60th, between the 60th and the 70th minute. That's the way I think they plan it out. You know,
I think that's too late. Juicy, and that's. But I think somebody mentioned, I think it might have been Albert, Juicy, that we're not putting teams to the sword, so we're not able to make 3 substitutes at half time because we're not getting that far in front as we should be in certain games. But that's football, mate.
Of course it is, and you know, we've always been very quick to comment on any of our previous few managers in terms of their strategy when it came to substitutions. Stevie was always criticised for making them too late, wasn't he? I thought under Gio, he, particularly in his early days, he was making changes quite a bit earlier in matches to change things up, which we actually quite liked. As far as the new manager goes, he's changed things up early on a few occasions, but generally he likes to make those double or triple substitutions a little bit later in the match. But I think if you're chasing the game, which unfortunately we have on a number of occasions because we've been conceding a number of goals first in a lot of matches under both managers, you might need to change it up earlier. You've got to get in there and make the changes because Rangers fans are going to let you know if you're not moving quickly to get back into the match, Oxford.
No, you're right there, Juicy.
You're spot on, Juicy. You know, Bridgeman, 2,500 coming for the north of the city. There'll be the biggest way support apart from some of the European times that'll be at Ibrox this season. I'll add a bit of atmosphere. Right. I'll add a bit of atmosphere to tie, yeah.
Yeah, and they bring out their own brand of hatred towards the Rangers, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, you're right. I don't even know how well they play. They're not pretty poor in the Championship. They're not at the top of the league, right now, are they?
I'll soon tell you. I'll check and find out exactly what they'll play.
The manager's the next player for us. So, isn't a bad wee player either, truth be told.
Yeah, we'll see what it takes. What do you think, Juicy? Do you think away fans had a... they're in the playoff positions, Bridge. They're 10 points behind the leaders in the playoff positions at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, they'll make a game of it then.
I think it's really good to see for a fellow, local club to bring what is a really good number of away fans to Ibrox, because it's going to be good for the atmosphere. They've something that you don't see for a lot of SPFL clubs, isn't it, Ox? The fact that when we go to away games, we're packing out their stadiums as well, and you just think, how are other Scottish clubs ever going to go anywhere when they, that they're obviously it's good for us, but their lack of conviction in terms of trying to sell tickets to their own fans, or their own fans attending away games, it's just really, really poor, isn't it? So this is quite refreshing to see, Ox. Probably won't help them at all on the pitch. Hopefully it won't. But as an overall atmosphere, I think it's great.
Aye. Bridgeman, cup ties, special memories.
Oh yeah, there's many of them too. I'll tell you. I just love the Scottish Cup. It's really good, and the League Cup is good. We used to get nearly always for such a long time in my youth. Celtic and Rangers would always meet in the final. That's the way it was. Everybody thought, and of course I don't doubt very much that people are thinking a similar thing.
Didn't they meet that often, Bridge?
No, I know that. It's the thought and the thought process is, well, we're the two best teams and we will meet in the final. But we didn't really meet a lot in the final.
How many times did they meet in the 60s in the Scottish Cup final?
I would imagine. In the 60s? Oh. 60s? Oh, well, I think we did all right in the early part of the 60s, but the later part was the
how many times did the two of them meet in the final in the 60s?
Oh, maybe half a dozen times, max.
Once.
And the final of which cup was that?
Scottish Cup.
Counting both.
Scottish Cup. How many times did they meet in the final in the 70s?
Oh my goodness, that's a guess, isn't it? I've got half a dozen times.
Twice.
How
many times did they meet in the Scottish Cup in the 80s?
Must have been half a dozen times at least.
Again, twice, right at the start and right at the end, the Hampden Riot, and then obviously Joe Miller.
Riot, and how things changed after that.
You've not met as often as you think in the Scottish Cup final. It's pretty frightening.
Obviously, because the statistics tell you that anyway. I don't know all the statistics on it, but if you look at them, a lot of folk are quite surprised. Now, I know
I've just said that off my head, Juicy. I've not even checked it out. I might be wrong.
Good knowledge.
Times that I went, we met. Sure, we met them in the final, and it was the great 1-0 final. We can't answered. We played them twice. Because it was the replay.
Yeah, 66. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was similar in the League Cup as well. All these things happen, but you tend to forget. And you think we played them every year, I know it wasn't quite like that, but that was a great year, by the way, at 66. Wow. Oh, wow. It's flying. I think I was floating down
the road. Might have been twice in the 60s. We not played them in the 69 Cup final when they beat us. Yeah, was that not the one that Ferguson never played for us again after that? Am I right, Bridge?
Elbows, Ferguson.
Now I'm starting to think. I made these. I put these stats out there, Juicy, without thinking.
It just seems.
It's the calibre of you. You know what you're doing. Well done.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
No. What? Bridge knows. I don't know what I'm doing. I just made it up, mate. It might not be right.
Sounds great, though.
Yeah. But the point I'm making is we don't meet as often in the final as people think, so you need to get through and see where it takes you, yeah? You can't win the cup unless you get to the final. Simple as that, Juicy.
Very true. I mean, it feels like we played them a lot in the final, but yeah, you're quite right. And there's still several rounds to go before we get there, and they're one-off games. Teams are going to bring it to you. You've got to be prepared for it because, unfortunately, our records in the domestic cups have been not great in the quarter-final and semi-final stages in recent years. So we've got to bring some of the quality that we've had in previous years back to the table again, and let's get consistent. We're already the cup holders, so that's fantastic. But we want to see that sustained again, Ox, for years to come.
Yeah, here we want to just be successful. We want to compete in Europe. We want to be successful. That's your club, Bridge.
Absolutely, that is our club, and we were always successful for many a long year. Certainly through my formative type years, Rangers were a very successful team. No, we didn't win everything, but we were very successful. We got to the finals and got through in some of the great, shall we say, European ties. Tremendous stuff. Really, really good club. What quality club? And of course, in those days, they only played twice a season in the league because they didn't have the Premier League or anything like that.
Would you go back to that, Bridge?
Well, in a minute, in a heartbeat.
So would that, mate. I hear Michael Beale there. He's saying you play teams 3, 4, and if you draw them in the cup 5 times or maybe 6 times a season, even for the big game and the game that we all want to win, even that, I think the magic is took off at Juicy with the setup in Scotland. They've got to rip it up and start again and listen to the people who count, the supporters who go to the games.
I'm a massive advocate for that, Ox, and the manager was totally correct with what he said. The product that we have in Scotland becomes stale because essentially familiarity breeds contempt, doesn't it? And it was only a few years ago we played Kilmarnock 7 times in a season, 4 league games, a League Cup game, a Scottish Cup game, and a Scottish Cup replay. 7 matches. I can't remember how many times we had to play on their plastic pitch. It was certainly more than twice, and not exactly the most exciting, flamboyant team to play against, was it? And I think it was at that point I thought to myself, we can't continue like this. We've got to have a 16 or 18 team league where we play each other twice. But then you get to the point where you think that's never going to happen because Sky TV would never want to drop 2 Old Firm matches. And then the money side comes in, and the SFA and the SPFL are already very cheap. That's not likely to happen, even though from a fan perspective, you'll be getting to see fresh matches. You'll be seeing clubs built into a new division from Division 1 into the Premiership, bigger division, hopefully more money across the piece. But it wouldn't be like that because of what I just said with regards to Sky.
Yeah, I've got another side to that coin, Juicy. I've got another side to that coin. If we only played that game twice a season and you marketed it right, ultimately you get more viewers. Because even that becomes stale. Even that becomes stale because it's on that often, yeah.
A very good point, sir. A very good point. And I would love to see that because it actually makes you that match bigger. When you see the English Premiership, teams only playing each other twice in a season in the league, it makes it a juicier affair, doesn't it? And it makes it something that fans, neutral fans as well, want to watch because it doesn't happen so often. Now, when we're playing Kilmarnock for the 6th time out of 7, how does a neutral fan view that? They're not interested in that. They're not interested in seeing 2 teams play each other for the 6th time.
I think if you think about it, the SFA and SPFL have, to me, they've kind of ruined Scottish football because they haven't planned it forward. Here we are now, and we're still speaking about possibly a better step would be to go back to what we were like 20, maybe 30 years ago, in a league structure perspective.
It's 1975. I think was the last league in 1976 was the start of the Premier League, I think. Yeah. I've not checked that out, I think.
No, but even if you think about that, and you go back 30, 40, 50 years, for these things, it's such a long time since we had a league where we only played each other twice.
1975.
Pardon?
I think it was 75.
75 is what? How many years is that? 45 years? Something like that?
48 years.
48, right. So close to 50 years.
Yeah.
It's look, I know it sounds crazy, and what Juicy said about the SFA and the TV companies and so on and so forth, but they need to find a way of getting our game supported. No matter what, they have to find a way of getting it done. And there's none of this stupid stuff. They are absolutely desperate to keep a hold of Rangers and Celtic and tie them down to TV contracts. That's what they want. They want Cinch to run the whole thing for them, and they want the Rangers and Celtic to pay to provide the fans. Yeah?
They'll disappear, mate. They're laughing at his Cinch.
No, I'm saying that's the way they are now. They just want Cinch to give them money. Give us money. That's it. That's all we care. We don't want you to do it. Just give us money.
Have you looked at the Cinch deal?
No, I doubt you. I bet you in your leg is worth nothing.
Buttons, absolutely buttons. Anyway, we've reached that time of the evening, and we're going to have a tune if that's all right with you two gentlemen. But after the tune, we need you to phone in because it's a phone-in show. Let's have a tune.
Took a trip to Eyebrow, my favorite team for to cheer, where they were playing the Glasgow Celtic on the first day of the year. Now the ground was filled to capacity as the teams come out to play. The animals sang the soldiers' song, and the people sang Dolly Gray. Now half-time it came and went on. The Glasgow Celtic were in the lead. Finian Tully was drowning everywhere, shaking his rosary beads, while the green flags, they were flying high. Celtic hearts were full of pride. The second half sure it started, and the Rangers they turned the tide. Won't you play up the Glasgow Rangers? Oh, play up the boys in blue. Oh, play up the Glasgow Rangers. We're here to cheer for you. Now the ball goes out to Walker, and from 30 yards he did score. Sure you couldn't hear your ears at Ibrox Park for the sash my father wore. Oh, play up the Glasgow Rangers. Sammy Cox is on the ball. He slips it through to Willie Woodward, then on through to Ian McCall. McCall to Billy Simpson. Oh, here come the boys in blue. Well, Simpson beats the Celtic centre half, and then goes number 2. Now the Rangers fans are roaring. Jardie Young, he takes a free onto the head of William Simpson, and then goes number 3, while it's 3-1 for the Rangers. That was the final score. A happy new year from Ibrox Park, for Rangers beat the Celtic once more. Yes, a happy new year from Ibrox Park, for Rangers beat the Celtic once more. Yes, a happy new year from Ibrox Park, for Rangers beat the Fenians once more. Why don't you give us a call on 0141 356 1972. It's your show, it's your platform. Let's hear from you.
All right, one of my favourites, Juicy. One of my favourite numbers.
Just lovely, Ox. Absolutely lovely.
True story, mate. Can't beat the true stories.
Certainly can't.
All right, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to build up. We're going to hear for the Super Six for the one and only Southside. I've got to say, I've got to doff my hat to the man. If ever there's been a worse pundit in the world, it's Southside. But the man that he is, he keeps coming back and he keeps swinging. And hopefully one of these days he'll get it up.
God loves a crier.
Gone in his past form, his Valentine selections will be a massacre.
Oh my God.
Let's hear the Super Six.
Oh.
Hi, welcome to Southside Super 6 for Saturday the 11th of February. We're doing a bumper St Valentine's weekend boost for all our listeners. We're going to do 2 Super 6 this weekend. When it comes Valentine's Day, hopefully you'll collect the money and be able to buy your good lady a good present. So my first selection this weekend is Crystal Palace in Brighton to draw. My second selection is Tottenham Hotspur to beat Leicester away from home. My third selection is Arsenal to beat Brentford. My fourth selection is Newcastle to beat Bournemouth away from home. My fifth selection is Manchester United to beat Leeds United away from home. And the sixth selection is Manchester City to beat Aston Villa. If you take all 6 teams, it pays 29 to 1. This Super 6 for this selection is slightly different. It is over 2.5 goals. So my first selection is Peterborough and Bolton. My second selection is Wycombe and Derby. My third selection is Airdrie and Dunfermline. My fourth selection is Bristol City and Norwich. My fifth selection is Queen's Park Rangers and Millwall. And the last selection is Watford and Blackburn. If you take all 6 teams and they score 3 goals in the game, it pays 52 to 1.
He's trying hard, Juicy. He's trying hard.
52 to 1. I'm going to retire this week, Oxford. That's it. I'm done.
He's trying hard, Juicy. What's your thoughts, mate? Is there any chance, or is it a massacre?
Well, you've got to give it a little go, haven't you? I mean,
I've given it a little go every week for him since August, mate.
That's why you've got to be cautious, Oxford. You've got to be cautious. You know, don't go all in every week. And remember, bet responsibly. I'm
not a gambler.
Well, exactly. You know, I haven't gone in for a while on this, so maybe it's time I had a little dabble.
Maybe Southside's one ahead of us, or maybe we're going to be approached by the big betting companies to sponsor our show because he's
Wow. You've been making them a lot of money, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I'll say it again. Fair play to the biggin. He keeps coming back for more. And hopefully one week he'll get it up and he'll do a lap of honour. You know.
It'll be amazing when that happens. And
it'll be buzzing. It'll be absolutely buzzing.
It'll be excellent.
Absolutely buzzing. You know. He'll be in meeting all his fans in a cake shop in the Paisley Road West.
I love it.
Right. Okay. It's a big game at the weekend, Juicy, because it's a cup tie. You know, there's you know, we can go Pete Tong. We've had disasters in the past. I mean, yesterday we talked about Wraith Rovers at Ibrox 8 years ago. 11,000 people there, and we lost 2-1. So we have come on a long way, and we are the holders, and we want to retain it, Juicy.
And that's probably why I wouldn't start Scott Wright.
You can't just blame Scott Wright for everything.
No, I'm referring to starting with a stronger team and making sure what you've just mentioned there doesn't happen. Making sure that you put out a team that can hopefully bag a couple of goals, and then you can think about making some changes, bringing on the players that are coming back from injury, letting other players like a Scott Wright get an opportunity, you know. But if you don't start those stronger players and you start with a slightly weaker lineup, is it asking for trouble? Quite possibly.
Yeah, if there's an argument, Bridgeman, if you brought in Devine and you start with Raskin, you start with Cantwell, you start with Tillman, you played Cholak and you played Wright and Hadji. Well, they've never all played together, the vast majority of them. They're good players. There's some of them coming back for injury. But would you be disrespectful to the opposition? It could blow up in your face.
Obviously, these are things that can happen. And but our own problem could be that we don't actually start. You could have all those players in and they're keen as mustard, but they actually don't start playing football. And you have to, we've done this before, we've had to bring in reinforcements like 3 and 4 at a time, get in there and transform the game so we could win it's through the tie. We shouldn't be doing anything like that. The manager's going to pick, hopefully, a really sensible starting lineup and keep the defence the same as it was, and I've obviously changed the goalkeeper, so you're going to have a bit of solidity at the back there insofar as the same teams, the same players. But what we don't want is we don't want it to lose anything, so we have to play well. And look, young boy Wright, I've said for a while that young boy Wright is. I thought he was going to come in and be an absolute star for us, and it looked as if he was going to be, and it's just didn't happen for him. It's not happened. I think the last couple of games he's come in, he's played quite well, and did he not score a goal as well? One of them, I made a couple anyway. I
he
think
played well in that semi-final when he came on.
That's what I'm saying.
It's absolutely non-existent in the weekend when he came on.
Yeah. I think most of our players at that time were all non-existent anyway.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think he should be anywhere near your first team squad. I think he's a guy that you should maybe want to move on. If I'm being honest, Juicy.
But you're thinking that right from the start, but aren't you?
Bridgeman, I'm going to say once again, your name's no Juicy. I know you like a juicy steak, but you're Bridgeman. Juicy.
I think he falls into the category of a number of players of that course. Their positions are going to be reviewed in the summer. I'm not saying these guys who are on the fringe haven't done a job for us, Ox, from time to time. Don't forget Scott Wright's goal in the cup final last season. Outstanding. But that's just a moment, isn't it? You can see what he can do from time to time, but players who lack that consistency, we need consistency. The fans demand wins every single week, because if we don't, it's very difficult in our division when there's only really 2 teams that win stuff. So the pressure's always there, and you need the consistency. And some of our fringe guys don't offer that. That's why they're on the fringe, but it's also why they're probably going to get turned around more often. We need some depth in the squad where you bring a guy on, Ox, and he's going to give you everything. And that's what we've seen from Fashion this season. Whether he's started Ox or whether he's been on the bench, he's going to give you everything. And he's not the finished article. He's not totally brilliant at everything that he does, but the effort is definitely there. And that's why we respect the kid, for sure.
Bridge.
Well, how can we say this? Well, you mentioned Fashion there. Fashion Sakala has been a smashing player for us. But you see in most games when he's playing, if he isn't right on top of his game, then he's kind of mediocre and he can struggle easily. But he's certainly the one that's going to cause most danger because nobody knows what he's going to do, and neither does he half the time. But he's good, gets the ball down, and he can run, and he's no scared to take a shot. And he isn't embarrassed when he hammers it over the bar or anything like that. He's always there, and he's got a big smile on his face, and we like him to play like that. The boy Wright, well, we know about the boy Wright, and some people in Ibrox wouldn't have him in their team or even in the squad, and they would be begging our manager to find a way to get him out this end of this season. That's a lot of folk that I speak to anyway.
Look, we took a punt on him. They see there might be some potential in him. He's shown that he's got ability, but consistently the boy's maybe not good enough to be playing for us week in, week out. So I think he had a 3.5-year contract. So I think he's got maybe a season and maybe 2 seasons to go, and he'll stay with us because financially it'll make sense for him, Juicy. Unless somebody comes in and gives him an offer, it's going to make sense for him. But he'll stay as a fringe player. But if we could, he's one I would cut my losses on.
Well, yeah, exactly. Who's the most legendary fringe on the bench or not quite even making the squad player in world football? I would probably say Phil Jones at Manchester United. How that guy has managed to maintain a job box through so many managers is beyond me. And I don't want to see a situation like that at Rangers where there's players that...
Did Tino get a 5-year deal or something crazy, Phil Jones?
I think he got a 10, 12-year deal by the looks of it. Something crazy happened there. But he manages to survive, and the guy's getting a few million a year for not even making the sandwiches. So
that might be a lot of money to me and you, but it's not to my next caller. Evening, Andy.
Good evening, guys.
Hey,
Andy. All right, boys, man. I like the Scottish Cup. I've always had a wee special buzz about that. I used to travel for a lot of Scottish Cup games, especially back in the day when there were real big crowds and all that. There's anticipation about them and all that, But I want to see Rangers put out as a real good, strong team there and go about their business like they would go about it, week on, week off. If we're playing well. I don't think we need to be messing about with too many changes. We need to get it right here, you know what I mean? So chopping and changing all the time for me doesn't do it. I think that's what causes a few problems as well. He's got players that are fit there now, and I think he needs to start getting them in and getting them used to each other, especially the 2 new ones. It sounds a bit, bringing them in and jumping straight in, but that's what he said. He don't want fellas, right? So get them 2 in. And then stay with basically his main players. Get this job done, get in the hat. Then he can flip it a wee bit second half. We get a couple of goals up front and we're playing. Then he can do that. But must start out with a very strong team for me. We should beat them. We should beat them with a B team right enough. But you don't take nothing for granted these days. You know what I mean? So I would like to see Rangers go out strong there tomorrow. Get this sure in that hat 5:30 Monday night.
That's a great point you make, because you're right. Back in the day, the cup ties were the games that the crowds were up in, Andy. Yeah?
Oh, they were massive. Yeah, I mean, one of my favourites was we played the Sheep and beat them 2-1 at Ibrox. I think it was about 31,000, 32 that day. And the following week we played them again, the Scottish Cup, 1-4-1. DJ set us off, and they said there was about 65. There was more than that. You couldn't move. My feet didn't touch the ground in that game. So I don't know where they got that crowd. If you look back in the old YouTube, you'll see it's massive. I think they had it doing it something like 50,000. There's no way. It was bigger than that. Massive, But that one, and then what was it? £1 for the coffers and £1 for your pocket, wasn't it, back in the days?
Exactly.
And actually, as well, I mean, I got squashed in between 2 big guys when put me through the trials. When you get, oh, that was unbelievable. I couldn't breathe, man. Go on, son, get through. Give me time here. Christ almighty, I'm going to sandwich. I'm eating the sandwich.
Can you lift me up, please?
I get plenty of them. I could still get them now because I'm that wee, so I wouldn't have a problem now. But they used to, it reminds the old big guys when they used to throw you over the turnstiles, man. You used to go about 10, 15 yards in front of where you were supposed to land. Good, get over there, bang, Jump. Oh, great days. That's it. Brilliant days. I mean, you lived and died. That's why you cut your teeth. You learnt about being a Rangers fan there in them days, you know what I mean? And I wish we could have them, but we're not modern day and health and safety. And actually, the fans being safe in the ground. I mean, Ibrox came out of what happened in 71, didn't it? So, we've got to move forward. But it's just, when you've lived them and all that, there was a buzz about it, wasn't there? Such excitement, unbelievable. Couple of great atmospheres. They were up for it, whoever you were playing, and we'd practically every ground we went to. Edgley, when we went to Edgley, I think it was 5-1. The Rangers all over the place in that. It was fantastic. But, yeah, memories. Keep you good,
I think that can be said for every league, and particularly in Europe. Cup games are like that, So Tom takes their purpose is a one-off game, They want to get in there and win it, and the English league. I love the English football cup, FA Cup. I just love it. There's always a small team comes up and does the giant killing. It's just fantastic. Just fantastic stuff.
Bridge the English FA Cup down here. It was a major thing. It started about 8 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
All the way through. They did both teams, and then I think they had some kind of Atlas Kellet and the wrestling in between it, the build up, and the guy with the band and all that. So they took it really serious, didn't they?
I told my wife I'm away. I'm doing the stair watching the telly now. That's it. So don't bother me. And it was you're right, from about 10 o'clock in the morning, they're on the bus to Wembley and all that nonsense. Fantastic stuff.
Well, you get nothing. If you were in the Scottish Cup final, you couldn't manage to get up. You get nothing. You're lucky if you got half time in the full time score in the Scottish Cup final back then. The same with the old world of the sport. That's all you got. You get a half time and you got a full time.
First one was shown live to 77. Yeah.
Right.
That was the first Scottish Cup final that was shown live, 1977. Unfortunately, although I still don't think it was a handball with John Gregg.
No. Yeah, we played well that day, didn't we? We were a better team in my opinion. There was no way that hit his hand, hit his leg. There was a big still in it in the Sunday Mail the following morning. How they got a penalty for that, I don't know. But there you go.
Well, that's because they're still getting them today. For the
that's true. You beat me there.
It'd be interesting. It's funny that just seeing it that how the cup ties it used to be. The league was seen as a run in the mill and things get exciting with the cup. Since the sort of European Champions League and, if you like, the EPL cup competitions everywhere been belittled.
I think it's just a reflection of how league setups have changed, as we were saying earlier. And the money side of football, even though the ESPFL isn't a massive money league in comparison to some of the other European leagues, it's still where the big prizes are, isn't it? The European places and the like. I mean, the Scottish League Cup doesn't even have a European place for winning it, does it? And you've got to make these things enticing. Okay, it's normally the old firm competing for them, but make it more enticing for clubs in terms of prizes and rewards and finances available. And that's why it's so good seeing the amount of Partick fans that are coming on Sunday, in terms of the gate receipt and that. It would be fantastic for them, won't it? But there's got to be something in Scottish football that can happen to make the overall product more attractive, not just in the domestic cups, as you said, but the league as well. And there's so much work that they can be doing, but nothing ever seems to happen.
Yeah, it's a shame, right enough, because playing them 4 times a year, and like you say, hit them in the cup and all that, it's not the same. When you play them twice a year, the anticipation was all year round that you were waiting for the 2 games. I know you had to do the damage in between it, the teams that we played in between playing them, but There's just something about it when it was twice a year. All right, you might have got them in the cup right enough, but the games, you were on fever pitch, weren't you, just waiting for them? But four a season plus possible cup games, too much. Far too much.
Remember, of course, way back they used to have the Glasgow Cup.
That's right. Yeah,
that was you nearly always get a Rangers Celtic final in that. Nearly always, anyway.
Well, it was a good chance.
So I'm saying that. So you nearly always got a big Rangers Celtic, Celtic Rangers Celtic, and it was always at Hampden. So there's a big Hampden thriller. But I don't know whether today's game, whether in fact it would ever be covered by Sky, just for saying sake. Because who would run it? Is it the FA that runs it, or some other cheating organisation? I don't know. But there's no there anyway.
I'm in your camp, Andy. I think they've took the, how do you say, the glamour away from it. They've killed the goose that laid the golden egg, mate. Too much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know the old 18, was it 16 or 18? I can't remember what they had there. I know you could have a lot of dead rubbers in it, but you only play. See, I still think we should go back to the old system where we played 2 for a win and 1 for a draw. You get nothing if you get beat. It kept it tight if you were kind of consistent. You know, you could still get back in it. You eat 3 points and you keep dropping them every time you draw. It's like a loss. So you fall further behind. That would be up to us to make sure that we're closer. But there's something about it. It was tighter. They were better players. I mean, most of the Scottish players out of the old Scottish First Division ended up doing it in England anyway. You know what I mean? So we always produce good players. And that's a shame that we're not doing that now. We need to look at it somewhere. I mean, I know it's going to be hard with the TV and all that, and this new this sort of breakaway thing that they're on about now. You see, my opinion with that, let them big guns go. There's massive clubs in England and Scotland with rich history and big names, and let us get on with it. If they Barcelona's and let them go. I'm not interested. Let us get into whatever kind of leagues and try and get up to that spiel. I'll tell you what, I see if they went in just their own league where it's just money, the viewing figures would go down on that. That's what I think. So let them get on with it.
If it is, if this thing has been muted in the last couple of days, they're taking a lot of clubs with them. Potentially 80 clubs have been mentioned, Juicy. That's a lot of clubs, isn't it?
The manager meant
Bridgeman, your name's no Juicy.
Right, okay.
Juicy.
Sorry there, Bridge. Sorry.
No problem, Paul.
The manager did mention. The manager did mention about the Super League. It was asked to him as a question, and I agree. You know, he said he's just got to sort of. We've just got to observe to see what happens with that. And, you know, I think from a Rangers standpoint, we've got to be very careful with how we monitor it because money potentially is going to be very big in this kind of thing. And, you know, how would our fans feel if Rangers, and our management and our board, our directors put ourselves forward for that? You know, how would we feel for everything that we've just been talking about with regards to Scottish football? Would the fans, the club and everyone listening, would they feel that they would want to go to some kind of European league or Netherlands and Belgium Benelux league or mix with other nations? How would people want that? Would we want that now for everything that we've just been saying with regards to the current Scottish product? I possibly would. Just say, let's go for it. But that's because I just want to see something fresh.
I've not studied it, but I think it would definitely be, and I haven't looked at it in depth, Andy. I'll go to Juicy first, then Bridge can come in, and then you, Andy. It would be the death, I would think, of the third cup competitions, Juicy.
Yeah, it would. But when have Scottish football been good to Rangers? You know, when have we been? Should we have that sentiment that, it would kill off the leagues, it would kill off clubs? We should be looking at this to a degree with a level of selfishness. not just because of what's happened in the past, not because I'm bitter, but we want to expand this club to bigger horizons, to bigger opportunities. And it will happen with or without one club's opinion on it, So it didn't happen, what was it, a season ago or 2 seasons ago, because it all happened as kind of a last minute thing, and there was no real debate or structure about it with what those clubs in Europe and 6 teams in England contrived at very sort of short notice in terms of making it public. But if it's thought about and discussed, it will happen one day, Ox, because TV money and sponsorship will dictate it. Rangers have just got to make sure that they're involved to some kind of degree.
And you come, Bridge.
Well, I was going to ask the question, but I think the way he's been speaking it sounds like the 80 clubs that they're going to pick, they're going to make leagues out of them and to play each other, whatever they're going to do. But they're going to leave their own leagues. That's the question I was going to ask at the time.
No. You would stay in your own leagues. It would be when the European fixtures wouldn't it be played in a league then, mate. That's what I've read. I've not studied it, Bridge.
Right. So the leagues would stay the same all over Europe?
Yes, your domestic leagues would stay.
Right.
But you would potentially have a bigger and more lucrative European competition, yeah?
By invitation?
Well, they said by sport and merit. That's the interesting thing. Andy?
Yeah, I think you should be right on the cups would probably go. I think it's all about money. I think if we're talking about 80 clubs, then I'd expect us to be in it. But like you say, it'll be done, like you say, on merit. That sounds dodgy to me, right enough. What I've always been surprised with, especially as the League Cups dwindle, like you don't really get any crowds in it, do you, till the back end, quarterfinals, semi-finals. I'm surprised we've never done an Anglo-Scottish Cup, start the 2 League Cups and, play them. Or even you could go like a British league and play your own leagues in the midweek, something on the day lines. Because what's happening in football across, Sky's killed it, but all the money in British football, say, not so much in Scotland, but all the money in the football, it's not even staying in the country, it's going out of the country, because everybody that's playing for most of the teams, they're all foreign players. So there's no money staying in the game, it's going out, there should be something like they do in the rugby. I know they'll know because it's football and it's massive and it's global and big. They keep messing about with the World Cups and bloody whatever the other championship is. But you've got to get a bit of common sense here and try and go back to grassroots. We're always trying to amend something that's not broken at times. Look at the balls and the way they play and all that stuff and rules. I can't understand that handball rule at all now. You know what I mean? I just don't know. So just play it like it was meant to be played. Let us get on with it. I'm sure you get bigger crowds back. You'd have your own players coming through and that. But it ain't going to happen, is it? So I'm talking bullshit, really. I'm talking like a Douglas. But,
I won't comment on that, mate. It wouldn't be fair. It's interesting. Maybe at a crossroads, Juicy. And obviously, we're talking about it because we know ultimately it's going to affect our club.
It will affect our club. At the very least, it will change the European Champions League, UEFA, Europa Leagues, etc. Because if there's a lot of clubs that are leaving the setup, even if we don't leave, it's going to affect how those tournaments operate. So you're going to see a difference and a change, regardless of if your club participates in the new dawn or not. So it'd be a fundamental change. 80 clubs from around Europe will be massive. If you're making an assumption that it's perhaps the bigger teams from each of those leagues, will we have an opportunity to join? Who knows? How will they structure it? Obviously, that's going to be more than one league. I sometimes talk to my dad about when all of the bad things that happened to us in 2012, would you ever have taken the opportunity or investigated joining, for example, the English lower league back then? And that's something that I think maybe sometimes in hindsight I wish we had done. I know it may not have even been on the table, but sometimes I just think that would have been nice, and the opportunities that would have allowed us. You think where we could be now?
Yeah, the Championship. It would have been interesting. That's a hard league to get into, mate, that Championship, mate. And even though we're still one of the biggest clubs in Europe, it's still a hard league to get into, but it would have been interesting. But we're definitely at a crossroads. Pardon?
It would have been exciting, Ox.
Oh, definitely. So we're talking about, I wouldn't say revolutionising our game, Andy. We're talking about getting back to by, because we recognise that the 2 games a season doesn't work. And then they're talking about going forward with something else, with more games. And let's be honest, it's not about sporting integrity, to coin a phrase. It's about revenue, isn't it? That's all.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the players are taking too much money out of the game. That's the issue.
Yeah. Well, like they're flooding it, the greed, for players, for people at the top and everything is a problem. I mean, like you said before, haven't we? You'll get players that'll stay at the clubs like a John Gregg or, Fergie and that just want to play for a badge and all that. It's all about the money now. Like, people's got to live. I get all that. You know what I mean? I've never been money driven. Well, I spend, as I've told you before, but I'm not in that environment where loads of cash have been thrown at me. You probably think differently. Of course you would. You want to live good, and have nice things and all that, right enough. But I just want to see us go back to just some kind of normality, right enough. So a bit of common sense, because at the end of the day, a lot of your big clubs that we said there as well, with history and all that, carries on like this. A lot of the bigger clubs are going to start getting into it, going into real problems and all that. So something needs to be done. They need to sit around the table. I mean, look, Scottish football, where it stands now, that ain't hard to fix. I think we could all sit around the table and fix it and come up with a better solution than what they're coming up with now. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous what they've done to the game. Because, as I said, I don't care. Rangers and Celtic always won the league. You get the odd ones coming out of it right back in the day. But they were harder teams to play against. Some of the foot was good. And every English team down here had Scottish players in it. Every English team. I think Liverpool practically had a full team of them when they won that cup final against Everton.
They did, pal. You're absolutely right.
Leeds stayed plenty of them, like, you know what I mean? They're all one eyes like that, because I stayed down there, like, you know what I mean? But they did quite through them, like, you know what I mean? But
one eye.
They always tell me, my old man used to chase that wee brim there. The bookies, like, you know. It used to terrify him up. Oh, you could see him coming. You could see him trying to get out the back door of the bookies, like, you know. Brilliant. But we're great. I mean, that guy that had for Dundee that came down to Tottenham, Gilzine, I wish he'd have gone to Rangers, man. He was a cracking player.
He was indeed. Fabulous
player. Yeah. Brilliant.
I was talking to somebody today that said you lived in the 90s, and then it was put to them it was the 1690s, but I think they had a point.
Well, I was taught never to give them any rest at all, and I still keep trying to do that today.
We're going to have to modernise, Juicy, so look, this will be the last show that Andy and Bridge will be on, because it's time to move on, isn't it?
Sometimes you just got to freshen things up, my friend.
Yeah. It's all about us youngsters, Juicy.
Us youngins, aye. That's shocker, that man is. Us youngins.
I'm saying nothing.
Oh boy.
All right, okay. We're definitely at crossroads in the game, but I agree with a lot of the stuff you've said, Andy. But we only care about our team. But ultimately all these things affect us, do you see?
Yeah, as I said earlier, Ox, that whether we choose to participate in this or not, it's going to impact our league. It's going to impact Champions League, Europa Conference. If there's 80 clubs that are breaking away, it's going to impact everyone who's left. So there could be some potential for clubs that remain in terms of the financial benefits. Certain clubs could become even stronger in each of the leagues. You might have new dominant teams. Whichever fans of whichever clubs don't break away, they're still going to be supporting their teams. So there's still going to be money flowing in the game. It's not going to just completely wipe out everything. But if Rangers and or Celtic were to leave the SPFL, that as a product would become, very poor in terms of finances. It would be the same in other leagues like Portugal if Porto, Benfica and Sporting Club all left as well. So you would see similarities across Europe. But unfortunately, our league is a two-team league. If you take the two top teams out of that league,
Do you see they're not
who's
talking
going
about
to
leaving the domestic league? They're talking about that becoming the European competition.
Yeah, but where does it start? Where does it end, though, Ox? Because
That's the question.
Exactly. We don't know exactly what's going to happen yet, and we saw a breakaway attempt only 2 years ago. So, I'm not convinced. But do I want Rangers to be part of it? If it suits Rangers, yes. But I don't really have too many concerns about departing Scottish football if it's good for us. Don't forget what Scottish football did for Rangers. Not a lot. So, if it's in our interest and it's good and it's sustainable, go for it. Because the fans will still follow Rangers regardless of the league we're in. We've already seen that.
I would say bye-bye to Scottish football the day before tomorrow. There you go. That's what I would do, given the chance.
See, I disagree there, Bridge. I might be in the minority, but we're a Scottish team, and that's where we created all this history going through, and we still went to Europe, played well, won the European Cup when it's called, went deep into European games, and we put our name across the world by doing that, but also dominating Scotland at long stretches. Not always. At the end of the day, that was, for me, was the beauty of that, especially with our champions and going out of these leagues and these countries and showing myself, Rapid Vienna, Jim Baxter and all them kind of games. I still believe that's where we created our history. We belong to Scotland. Whether we don't like what Scotland's done to us or not, that's what we are. We are a Scottish club and proud of our traditions. And for me, that's where I'd like to see us stay.
No,
but we need to do something.
I can't disagree with your sentiments, but to me, it's just a sentiment. I think that if the chance came, and that they were indeed creating these European leagues, I would like Rangers to be in among it. And if that meant leaving Scotland, then so be it. I'd go tomorrow.
Yeah. The problem you've got, though,
if the English league system invited Rangers down, I would say go.
Yeah, well, there's your problem, Bridge. There's your problem, Bridge. England won't have us down here. They don't. They wouldn't take the baggage.
As I said, if they invited us down.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's where the problem would be. They wouldn't take us down here. They just wouldn't.
But it wouldn't be a case of taking us. I'm saying if they invited us, I would go tomorrow. I would definitely go. I don't know where we would end up. Maybe in the bottom leagues and fight our way up. That's what we might have to do. If that was the case, I don't think they're going to invite us down to the Premiership straight away. I doubt it very much.
But you've got to recognise that to do that and that journey was only when we were on your journey. We couldn't have a wage bill that we'll go to Snoon playing the fourth tier English football.
No, absolutely not. Of course, we have to change. It has to change.
Mm-hmm.
It has to change. We have to adapt.
But remember, what they're talking about at the moment is you stay in your own domestic league, Andy. So you've still got, if you like, both sides of the coin. I don't think.
Yeah, I would go with anything with that. Definitely. As long as we stay in our own league and we're competing for our own league, I want to be champions in my own league. The rest of it, if it comes along our way, I'm quite happy. If it makes us richer, better players on the pack. Because it doesn't matter what league we play, we had to go down the conference and start there. We'd fill anywhere we went. That's not a problem. So we would be all right, but we would have to have real quality players as we moved up the leagues. But there again, we should be genuine. I think we'd have to make Ibrox even bigger if that was to be the case. You know, we don't like that. I'd like to play Arsenal, Man United, Newcastle, Chelsea every week, but yeah, you know, I mean, how's the fans going to get to the games? I mean, we've got more fans down in England, you know, looking for tickets. Will it stop us from coming down? I mean, the whole idea of having games like that is you want to be there. You know, 10,000 strong or how many were allowed. You want to be watching the games, not watching them on the TV. I mean, for me, it'd be great because I stay in England, so I'd be able to get to a lot of the games. So, yes, of course I would, but I don't know. I think the weak countries like Holland, Scotland and things like that, they're not looking at us these big powers. They're just wanting to line their own pockets and get on with it. But that will soon, if it happens, that will soon run out of favour. People just keep watching the same teams doing the same thing. You know, you've got to have a bit of competition. You've got to have something happening.
As you said, mate, I think it was Chelsea and Barcelona that kept meeting in the Champions League, and Liverpool and Chelsea this spa as well. It becomes boring, mate.
Yeah. That's what we've done with the Old Firm game, and that is what we said with the Old Firm game. It's not boring, but there's too many of them.
Mm-hmm. I never thought I would say this. Never thought I would say this, Juicy. Andy's talking about a sense.
Hang on a minute. Just can we have a full stop there? Right, hang on. That's 2 nights in a row, by the way.
Compliment indeed, Andy. Compliment indeed.
2 nights in a row, Bridgeman. 2 nights.
Oh, I'm going to put your name up in lights in the forum tomorrow, boy.
Oh, no, just leave them alone. They're quiet tonight.
Juicy, I'm not feeling well, Juicy.
Have a lie down. Go and have a lie down.
Thinks he's speaking. I think he's just talking for the sake of it.
I get where you're coming from, Andy. I get where you're coming. Right, go back to tomorrow. Sunday's game. How's it going to go for you, Andy?
Well, I'm going to do a really silly one. I'm going to go for 6 there on Sunday. Sunday night. 6. I'm going to go for 6. I think we're going to come out and somebody's got. Listen, the chances we're making, somebody's got to take a battering off them. But we just hit it right. Like, you know, we could get the goals that we're looking for, and that'll be good. We need to start. We start taking these chances, it won't look so bad. It's when they're not taking these chances and they're letting things happen when they're coming on us in the last 10 or 15, and we look like we're going to implode if we haven't got, you know, a couple in front. We need to start doing that because they are making the chances to do that. So it's just a case of them getting their act together in front of goal, isn't it, really? Don't score, like you say. You don't win games, do you? Or you don't, or you're very nervy in a lot of them if you're only scoring the 1 and the 2.
Goals change games. All right, 6. Correct. All right, okay. Juicy Bear.
Well, I mean, it's I was taken aback by the Super 6 with our man Southside earlier. So a 6-0. Wow. I mean, look, all things are possible. Look, if we start the first team, Andy, which is what I think the manager implied in his conference, because as I said earlier, we did not have a midweek match, so he's more likely to start with the usual starting 11, with the exception of Cholak probably replacing Morelos, as I said at the top of the show. So I think that's what he'll do. And if you see that, Ox, we could be seeing a little bit of a cricket score. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Are you sticking to 1-0, Bridge?
Well, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with the 1-0 because you just never know. Obviously, I hope it's an Andy for Leeds.
Doesn't matter what league we're going to work for, Matt. His football killed again, Andy.
No, we wouldn't need to look at the structure anyway, would we? We went with Oxys all with Bridges all the time. 1-0, 1-0.
I'll tell you now, it's just against my beliefs. I think we'll win at least 1-0. But I'll go for a 1-0. Safe score for me. But I hope it's an Andy or anywhere in between or even above. You know. Just get and leather them. That's what I want. Just get and leather them. Come on, Rangers.
Here. All right, I'm not quite as enthusiastic as Andy with his 6, but I'll go for 4. There you go. Yeah.
Aye. Well, I think it'll be 3 at the worst rate enough. But like I say, I go crazy scores. I usually go 4 by the time, but I'm going to go up with 6 here. I think Kulik gets a start right, and he gets that first goal early doors. He's wanting to champion a bit, so he gets a brace, and you can see the guys around him sort of coming in. I think that Raskin, I think if he plays, he's got no defensive mind in him at all. He'll look to push us forward from what you see on the clips and the little bit he tried there last Saturday. So, chances could be made. It's just a case of, like we said, taking them. Somebody's got to get it off of them. I think you've got more chance of him really tinkering with the team this week. I think you get more chance of it happening at Livingston, being the plastic pack, where he might shock you away a few. That's what I think.
I just a new listener. Well, I've always got new listeners, but a special shout out to somebody who's trying to turn their life around, to the new listener called Douglas. All the best for everybody here at Rangers Radio.
Douglas! Is that a new guy?
Well, he's trying to be a new guy. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, wow.
Right, okay.
They find out about
Can
that.
I just also, while we're doing shout-outs, we don't always do shout-outs, but listen, you remember the wee boy David, the Blackpool True Boy, that's been on the show, and David had a bad time. He was born. He's got to go back in for another heart operation.
No.
He's on that toddler, so we wish David all the best. But there is good news. He's going to have a wee brother and a sister. So
well done.
Goes well for the family, and I hope David's all right and his operation goes well, because the wee boy was about 4 now, I think. 3 or 4 now. But he loves the Rangers, and he's been to Ibrox a few times, so all the best, David, and all the best to your family as well. And also, while I'm on the shout-outs to our Billy, who unfortunately has his good lady lost his brother-in-law in good comfort, good stock, and she was a right old age of 100.
Wow.
100, yeah. But
wow.
Passed away today. And all our wishes go to Billy and his family at this time.
Yeah.
Right, okay, a few shout-outs there. I felt like Michael Cavalcade there, Andy.
Say again?
I felt like Glenn Michael in the Cavalcade there.
I thought you did it very well, actually. It's, to everyone and what you mentioned there, and I think we all got the same, way of thinking there, aren't we? Like, we're a family, aren't we? We're a family,
Puts everything into perspective. But good luck to Douglas trying to turn his life around.
Douglas.
I heard there's another Douglas, right? I heard they cracked a couple of machines, right? And if I don't know how true that is, right enough, a couple of fitness machines.
That's the same Douglas, mate. That's the same Douglas.
I've been put out of action.
Oh my God.
Right, okay. And you might get a wee announcement from Rangers Radio next week. You never know what's coming, Juicy Bert.
Always exciting, and that's why you need to tune in, because anything can happen.
Anything can happen. So we went for 1-0. Guess who? 4-0. What did you go for, Juicy?
I'm going to say.
He went.
I'm going to say 5. 9? No, that's too crazy. I'll settle for around 5.
5. All right, we'll see. Well, I'll tell you what I've gone for. Whatever Southside's gone for, I'll go for something different, if that makes any sense. Right, okay, 4, 5 and 6. We'll discount Bridges. 4 o'clock Sunday. Strange game for us in Scotland. Not the first time, but strange times to have football matches for us, Bridgeman.
I can't understand why it's at 4 o'clock. I'm sorry, I do not understand why it's at 4 o'clock.
TV.
But there's no games on. I don't know what English games are on. I mean, maybe Andy could tell. I don't know any.
Leeds and Man United's on at 2 o'clock.
It's 2 o'clock, so we could play at 12. I just don't get it. Sorry, I don't get
church, mate. You've got church on Sunday.
Church, The church parade. Hooray! Ow. Just ow. 4 o'clock on a Sunday. I believe the sub was on full blast on Sunday for the supporters.
I'm just checking the fixtures for you, see what games are on. And Man City and Aston Villa start at 4:30, so you're sort of getting put in between that, yeah. It's all a Davy TV. It's not. I don't know if it's all good or bad, Juicy.
Well, I just think about fans who are travelling and, the distances they have to travel, and maybe 4 p.m. isn't the worst time in the world, but it is on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal.
A wee night out going on in the northwest of the city, and they would never make a 12 o'clock kick-off on Sunday Bridge, so maybe it's been moved to 4 so they can make it.
Well, I understand if it was for us, then the time suits. I'm happy, but when they tell us it's for Sky, there's got to be.
No, on Sky, it's on whatever it's on. Whatever it's called anyway.
Aye.
Right, we've reached that time of the evening. Andy.
Fantastic show again. Some great points to get over, and pleasure being on. Really enjoyed it again. And hope everybody stays safe, and we all come together again on Saturday before the game, Sunday before the game, and see where we go. Look at the team.
It's on. Fair play. That's the name of the channel. Cheers, Andy. Always a pleasure, mate.
No problem, Paul.
Is your mate recovered? I believe you got a bit of doing on Wednesday verbally. Is that correct? I don't know.
What am I thinking? He's okay. I think. I think he's out playing his ball. He plays with his balls a lot on a Friday night, so that's why you don't hear from him. So we'll see.
All right, I've been told he's got one of the things that you use at a 10-pin ball and to let his balls down, but I've been told that. Right, Juicy Bear.
Great show tonight, guys. Thanks to the Bridge and my main man Andy, and thank you for hosting Ox. It's been good, and let's look forward to hopefully a cricket score on Sunday. That would be superb.
Bridgeman.
Oh, magic show tonight, by the way, of Oxford. Just fantastic. Thanks very much for it, and a big thank you to the technical team for making sure we're all plugged in, and of course to Juicy for holding me up during the show. And what can I say? To all the Rangers fans all over the world, and particularly Rangers fans on here on Rangers Radio, every single one is, remember this, biggest game of the season on Sunday. Biggest game of the season. So let's keep it going for the Rangers, because the Rangers need us, and so do they.
Thanks to Andy for joining us, Juicy and Bridge for doing the show, Fox and Old School Boy for doing the technicals, everybody for listening. This has been Rangers Radio. We'll be back at 3 p.m. as we build up to Rangers. We hope we partake this on the last 16 of the Cup. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Shout out to Bill and his family and young David. Take it away, Old School Boy.
See them march on, marching on through the years of history. Heads held on high, for the Jersey they will do or die. Fight for time, play the game with the badge of glory. Win, lose or draw, that's the Glasgow Rangers story. See them march on, by the sky as they fly before you, loyal and true, on the way to cheer the boys in blue. Follow they will, marching on to the songs of glory. Win, lose or draw, that's the Glasgow Rangers story. City.